Hello, how is everybody doing? And today we are going to assemble a 37-ton wood splitter. Yep, we finally had a wood splitter for the homestead, and I cannot wait to get this baby put together and get it into action. I am officially Fran, and this is Buchanan Oasis Farmstead. Let's assemble this log splitter in 8 steps. Well, the first thing was to take a look at the hardware, and there's about 14 bolts. Then I sat down, breezed over the directions, and I do mean breezed over the directions, and then popped that baby out of this crate, moved it over to an area where I had a little bit more room to work, and then jumped right in to the install. The first thing that went on were the fenders. Of course, there are 2, one on each side, and each fender had 2 bolts each. There really wasn't much to the fenders. Put them on, tighten up the bolts, fenders done. The next step was to move on to installing the wheels. Of course, again, there are 2, one on each side. You start off by taking the pin out of that funny little nut, unscrewing it off of the end. The next step was to pop the caps off of the wheels, then move my little makeshift bucket jack out of the way and place the wheel onto the axle, I guess that's what that's called. Then trying to make sure that I have the bearing seated in there right, give it a little spin to make sure that everything is working, and then reinstall the bolt, put the pin back in, and one wheel done. Repeat the same thing on the other side. And just like that, we have fenders, and now we have wheels. So moving on to the third step, which is going to be to install the tow bar. That's going to be this long bar right here, and it's going to hang off of the front side, I guess, of these wheels, and it's the part that's going to actually hold the log splitter arm, I guess you want to say. This had 2 bolts in it also. Again, really simple. Put the bolts in, tighten them down. We move on to the next step. I have to be honest with y'all. At this point, this is going way too easy. And of course, I started to doubt what I was doing, even though I was reading the directions. And just as I started to think, oh, we got it going easy, then came the hard part, which was lifting up the splitter to put into the cradle of the toe part, I guess you want to say. Now, it really wasn't that hard, but it was not something that I could do by myself. So my husband came over, we wiggled it into place, and now I understood why we put the wheels and the fender on, because I kept thinking with the wheels on, this thing not going to be stable. Well, as you can see, it's so that you can move it back and forth and get it right into place. Now, even though I couldn't do it by myself, because believe it or not, I'm standing right in front of it, but I could not just go straight. So my husband ends up taking it from me and simply putting it there. And look how easy he made it look. And then he plain and simply just rocked it forward. And yeah, just like that, it's on there. Done. So hard part over with. And now we have the log splitter itself actually installed. Once he dropped the pin in, I got the instructions so that I can get ready for the next thing, which was installing the engine. There's a small platform sticking off of the fender part of the splitter, and the engine just sits down right on that platform. There were 3 bolts that held the engine down to the platform, and that was it. That's all you had to do to install the engine. Drop it on the platform, drop the bolts in, tighten them up, and then engine's installed. Now we're moving on to installing the suction hose. I use a pair of pliers to open up these hose clips, slide it over the clear hose, and I am attaching one side of that to the hydraulic oil tank and the other side to the inlet pump. The next step is to install the oil inlet high pressure hose, and that little bitty O-ring right there goes in on one side of it. I almost threw that part in the garbage. When you open up the caps on those high pressure hoses, there's a little fluid. So I put a bag on the ground to catch that, and then it's simply add the piece to the top and screw it down. This side is the high pressure. Then we're going to move right into installing the low pressure, which goes on the other side. Can you believe it, guys? We are at the last step of the assembly of this log splitter. In total, there were 8 steps. And I cannot believe that that is all it took for the assembly part of this. So for the last step, which is now at step 8, in the manual it says step 7, but I count the hoses as 2 different steps. But it's installing the log catcher on both sides of the log splitter. There's a bigger one, there's a smaller one, and it simply takes 4 screws. That's the end of the assembly of the log splitter. Let's do a quick overview of the 8 steps. First, we install the fenders. Second, we install the wheels. Third, we install the tow bar. Fourth, we install the log splitter itself. 5, we install the engine. 6, we install the suction hose. 7, we install the hydraulic hose. And number 8, we install the log holders on both sides. And that's it. Now we just have to install the 3 fuels and start it up. And even though this video is sped up, the total install took me about an hour to an hour and a half because I did keep stopping. I didn't just install straight through. Let's head over to the backyard, and now we're going to put the fluid in it, start it up and give it a test and go from there. We are in the final stages. We need oil, gas, and the hydraulic fluid. This came with the oil and the hydraulic fluid, and it uses regular unleaded gas. The funny thing about the oil, well, I guess it's not funny, is that it's all the way under there. So I was trying to figure out how am I supposed to fill that up, because there's no other oil place. You actually fill it up in the dipstick area. So I loosened the dipstick up all the way under here, set it over here to the side, and luckily they supplied us with this little angle funnel, so it won't be that hard. There we go. Look at that, right where we need it to be. Now, I know that's not enough, but I'm gonna go over here and take a look at the little glass thing anyway. Guess what? There was no sight glass for the oil, so I'm over there looking for it, and then I realized in the instructions you have to look inside of the fill oil port. So first you do oil, then you do gas, which is what the instructions said. I'm glad I read the instructions, y'all, because I was really gonna just do what I wanted to do. So I found my funnel, cleaned my funnel. When I'm in the dollar store, I pick up these things all the time. Luckily, this one was picked up and never used, so it's just been sitting around here. Let's start with this 2.3 gallon because we can use the tools up first. The hydraulic oil is in, then you just replace the plug that's there, and I again pulled out this handy dandy wrench. Now that hydraulic plug has a small hole in it, and the instructions say to make sure that hole is facing out and away from the machine. Came to putting in the hydraulic oil, they gave me 6.1 gallons, and the instructions said to put 5 gallons in first, start it up, get the air out of the, the splitter arm. Try that a couple times until it runs smooth, then shut the system down and check the levels, and then add the other gallon of the hydraulic fluid. So that's what I did. And right here I'm just playing with the arm and going back and forth trying to purge any air. I forgot to tell you, this log splitter is both vertical and horizontal. So after the first run, everything went as planned. The instructions for shutting it down are to turn off the fuel and allow it to fuel starve itself and not use the off button, and only use the off button in the event of an emergency. So now that we've run it, I have to recheck the hydraulic line or the hydraulic oil and then add that last gallon that we had left. Well, that was it, y'all. We moved it to the back, found some logs that we had on the property, and then we just basically started to play with it and stack some wood up. We have a bunch of wood all around the property, and we just been moving it to the side, thinking that sooner or later we would get to this part of a project or this part of a purchase, and we finally made it. This thing was so nice. All the wood that we chopped up just playing. I think we may have been back there 30 to 45 minutes, and we did get a lot of wood chopped up just messing around for the most part. This is what we ended up with. This was all of the waste or stuff, so that can now be mulch, it can be fire starter or whatever. That's a little bit of the wood that we chopped up and put under this log stand that I built a couple weeks ago. That video will be in the description. The other logs are too long because the holder part for the log splitter is only 24 inches, so we'll have to chop those down in order to put them there, but we'll get to that later. I also have this small wood stand that I built over by our little farm stay campsite, so I was able to load that up with wood. So if you're in that area, there's wood, or you can walk over to the stand and get more. But it was so nice to have some wood in the area and just to play with this. I appreciate you guys for watching. I think that's it. Bye-bye for now.